Types of text. A text is not limited to something written down. A text can be a film, an artifact, anything in a language and culture that conveys meaning. For our purposes, text can be categorized into FF groups. Created text. Text authored by non-native speaker to achieve predetermined corporal goals. So, ang created text. This text is approved by someone who has another native tongue than language being used to achieve or to reach pre-planned or prearranged curriculum goals. Curriculum means a standard-based sequence of goals or plan. Semi-authentic text. Text created by native and or non-native speaker based on original language materials, but adapted to fit curricular needs. So, ang semi-authentic text, this is created by native speaker, which means someone who has spoken a particular language since they were a baby, rather than having learned it as a child or adult, and or non-native speaker based on original language materials, but adapted to fit curriculum needs. Like when you're transferred to another country, you need to use their language because it's needed for your both to understand your communication. The difference between native speaker and non-native speaker is that native speaker is often debated but is generally accepted to mean someone who learned the language as a small child in a natural setting, usually through hearing their parents speak, while non-native speakers learn the language as older children or adults. Authentic text. Text created by native speakers for native speaker for consumption in a native environment. Authentic text may be thought of as any text that was written and published for public. Journal articles, blog posts, and novels are just a few examples. Authentic texts are written for real-world purposes and audiences to entertain, inform, explain, guide, document, and convince. Multimodal text. Text that combine two or more semiotic systems. A text may be called as multimodal when it combines two or more semiotic systems. What are five semiotic systems? 1. Linguistic, comprising aspects such as vocabulary, generic structure, and the grammar of the oral and written language. Visual, comprising aspects such as color, vectors, and viewpoint as well as moving images. Audio, comprising aspects such as volume, pitch, and rhythm of music and sound effects. Gestural, comprising aspects such as movement, speed, and stillness, and facial expression and body language. Number 5. Spatial, comprising aspects such as proximity, direction, position, layout, and organization of objects and space.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to discuss the 10 clever tricks for adding text to images. Number one trick is add some perspectives. This means that sometimes it can be a good idea to play around with the perspectives in your slide. A great way to change up the monotony is to set the text so that it appears to be receding backwards into the images. Number two is make text part of the scene. The displayed text is manipulated to conform to contours of the mountain that is focal point of the image, creating a clear tie in between the image itself and the idea being expressed. Number three trick is add icons for emphasis. Sometimes, the best way to get your point across is to add simple, preferably flat designed icons to your presentation slides. Number 4 is go big. Size matters, at least when it comes to the size of your display text. Number 5 trick is to combine 2 to 3 different font sizes. This is to optimize the visual impact of this sort of display. It probably is best to have a longer phrase with anywhere from 5 to 10 words in them. Number 6 trick for adding text to images is be bold with keywords. Be concise with the text you use on presentation slides because no one wants to hear you reading an essay during a PowerPoint presentation. You have to be bold with the keywords so that it could be clear to the audiences when they see your PowerPoint. Number 7 clever trick is to play with the orientation. The orientation or angle at which you present your text is another variable at your control when you are designing effective display to text for your presentation slides. Number 8 is to add shapes for emphasis. A perfect solution instant contra- to creating instant contrast in drawing attention to your words is to add semi-transparent shapes as background filter behind your display text. It is so much fun if you add shapes to your text for emphasizing the keyword of your presentation. Number 9 is tuck your text into an invisible shape. A particularly clever arrangement involves grouping the display text into an invisible shape and contrast to whatever is in the image background. Number 10 is to combine light and bold fonts together for impact. A particularly clever arrangement involves grouping the displayed text into an invisible shape in contrast to whatever in the message background. 11 is to combine light and bold fonts to highlight ideas. Combining light and bold fonts together to highlight your most important ideas, uniform fonts are a little bit dull. So adding boldface to your font or choosing one font that is narrow and another one that tends to be on the thick slide is a great way to create visual impact.
How to use your target audience. Number one, identify where your target audience hangs out, then be there. Look at the users of a certain social media sites, the readerships of publications in which you advertise, blogs in which you guest post, etc. Then steer yourself in the direction of those with users compatible with your product. If you write epic fantasy, guess posting 200 blogs popular with erotica readers won't be effective unless your novel's elves are too randy for the final battle, and instead get hot and heavy in this castle's stronghold. 2. Concentrate on the buyers. While readers are great, more readers beget more word of mouth, and anyone who shares your work is a great help to you. Not every avenue of promotion is equal. For example, while there are exceptions like the great Joanna Penn, who gained a large following for their writing by building a writing base blog, most often other writers are not going to be an audience who becomes an avid fan base for your book. Let's face it, writers are supportive for each other, but We are busy focusing on our books too. If you have a limited time to promote, heads for spots where your target audience is refer to number one. 3. Work the connections you have found to popular books in the same vein as yours by appealing to those books readers. Got a psychological thriller you think Dane Cohn's fans might like? Check out his aesthetics and marketing techniques. We are not saying to tie up Cohn's cover designer, throw him your trunk and take him home and force him to create your cover, emulate certain style traces without xeroxing odd Thomas, and pasting your head from last year's Christmas card over. Dane's face on the book, back of the book, or if you are a convinced fans of Aragon, would like your fantasy adventure story. Make a note of where you can find droves of Christopher Pauline's fans and head to DragonCon. 4. Hone your target audience when you decide on branding such as cover design. For example, if you write romantic suspense with a target audience of female consumers of books in the vein of Harley Quinn's novels with a suspenseful twist, a cover design featuring romantic leads in an embrace, among other elements, might enhance your appeal. However, if you are writing a thriller that contains a love story, but it might also be a heavy in action and adventure, and so your target audience might also contain main poor fans of Clancy or Ludlum. A heavy romantic element in your branding may hinder more than help.
Hello everyone, I am Samanias Escasis and I'm here to report Tenor. First, we will talk about Tenor. Among the three dimensions, Tenor is by far the most complicated. It signals difficulty in identifying what message is really conveyed and registers the attitude the speaker or writer manifests is called tenor. Same is true of tune in poetry. There are many levels by which tenor can be fully understood. Tenor is complicated since it often involves a lot of reading between the lines and reveals information about what kind of persons the author is or is pretending to be, how strongly the author believes in the truth of their message, whether the author and the reader or listener are on equal terms or not. To examine tenor, first you need to examine the rule, that is whether doctor or patient, teacher or student, father or son, mother or daughter, and more. Second, look into the expected characteristics, whether they are employed or not. Third, consider the value shared by constituents. In addition, tenor is basically asking who is the person. In other words, it refers to who is taking part and how they relate among each other. Tenor is marked by power relations, which could either be equal or unequal. Equality resides in the intent of the speaker or writer to invoke the sense of belongingness to the listener or reader. Punchlines from movies, for instance, are giving students the easiest source for this emotive transcendence, as not all are drawn to watching all these sprouting genres on screen. For example, with great power comes great responsibility in Spider-Man.
The next part of our discussion is the corporate world. Power and possession is never slave to someone, it moves with time. Himalayan it is back, everybody's dream to have an event that doesn't go awry. Many things could be done to prepare for it. Careful communication is one in fulfilling a smoother transmission of ideas from the client to the event manager or product agent, manufacturer, and vice versa. With the lack of appropriate concept that control the whole event or process, much could be wasted. Hence, a SWOT analysis is needed to address such unlikely circumstances. Then Van der Wagen, 2008, points out that the analysis is made easy with certain steps, such as knowing the project scope, objectives, financial, viability, and project milestones. Another interesting fact in the world of business is the gravity of persuasion. An agent has on a particular product. This usually happens during pitching. Pitching a product is more likely to swallow anyone up if he's not prepared as her competitor. Success is primarily based on how he could convey the messages, which have a high probability to be accepted by the CEOs. In this section, the knowledge of the appropriate words to use is a plus since products are dependent upon the market company's target. The success of a business is heavily reliant upon the determination to make words or ideas fall into place perfectly without having to force any of them during the interaction, such as the sample with jargons for structural engineering.